Better stop shaking that paint. Well, I think we're ready to start laying some primer now, but it's so fucking windy. I've got into budget mode now because I straight can't be arsed for this anymore. So I've got more primer than I have paint, so I'm going to do all the black stuff first because everything else is already, well, I can pretty much go straight over that with silver, to be honest, as it is. Might give it a little bit of primer if I got some, but mate, proper hatchet masking job. Look at the state of it. It's blowing everywhere, it's doing me head in. But right, so got the old primer out, giving it a good shaking. Let's give it some. 2 tins of primer in, and the video is going to be shocking because of the light, which I can do nothing about. But we've covered the black now, so I've got 1 more tin of grey primer left. Let's go around this side a minute, see if I can get some slightly better light. Helps when I can see the screen. So I've got 1 tin of primer left. So I'm going to need to be quite selective with this one. Certain panels are going back in, so I know where I need to cover and where I don't need to bother with, such as that bit there. Don't need to worry about that because that's going to get covered by a massive slab of steel. So I don't need to worry too badly, but it is certainly not as pretty. That primer is definitely not as good as the PPG stuff. It sprays out furry and you get that like fibrous finish to it. And a couple of bits have reacted, so I'm going to have to wait for it to dry, so I can just flat a couple of bits back and re-clean before re-priming again. Oh good, the sun's gone in. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. I mean, it's a far improvement compared to what it was a couple of hours ago. Once we start laying some silver on, which we've got loads of, so we should be good, it's going to look freaking sweet in comparison to previous. So let's get cracking. Well then, it's up at 6 on Saturday, and the interior is now all one colour. The side panels look decent, the arches look decent. I'm quite happy with those. Got to do the clear coat tomorrow morning, leave all this to finish off drying overnight, and then do it tomorrow morning. But it gets a bit ropey when you start looking down into the boot floor and onto the back seat bench area and in the footwells, because that was all the stuff that had been hand painted, brush styly. So not a lot I could do about that. I was not prepared to go back to bare metal with it because I just haven't got the fucking time. When you see how thick it is, if I go around to here, you can see here, this will be covered by the seat, so you won't even see this, but you can still see just how thick the old paint was. I mean it was jokes, mate, like full on jokes. Why you would do that is a bit of a mystery to me, but nah, I'm pretty happy with it. It certainly looks a damn sight better than it used to, and it's now at a level where I'm happy to put it all back together. Get the shifter and shifter box back in, gear cables in, finally put the gear cable grommet in, I can put the seats in. That's about it really, there's not a lot else going in here. Then I need to start thinking about plans for a roll cage, so all good. All done. 2 days. Well, I started yesterday, got on to the actual painting side about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Few things. Firstly, the primer was shit. Secondly, the paint that I was painting on top of was really shit. Should have gone to bare metal, didn't have the time, so compromised results basically. Also, the satin lacquer, obviously it's satin, so it's not going to be glossy, but I expected it to be a little bit more glossy than what it is. But I'll show you the result because, you know, it's alright. So all the masking's off now. Let's see if we can see. It's sort of, I wouldn't even call it a semi-gloss. It basically looks like just the silver does when you spray that on. But some of the artifacts and issues from the dodgy primer, don't know if the camera's really going to pick it up. Yeah, you can sort of see it. You've got like this textured finish to it. Now, the base paint underneath was smooth because I went over it with 320 and then 500, so it was definitely smooth. But the primer was like feathery. It had like a texture to it, and I think that's what's caused this issue. I then did the rear slam panel in a different primer because I had some reaction. But if you look there, it's smooth as silk and it sounds smooth, you know, and that's the difference between the regular paint shop stuff and the PPG primer that I prefer to use. The PPG stuff is wicked. Like you can put that primer onto anything you like and it just sticks. It's smooth, paint sticks to it really well, and so you can see the difference in the silver there. Smooth as, whereas this, you can hear it. You can hear the difference. I mean, it's not as bad on the stuff where it's still a little bit dodgy, like the stuff that was factory still, that hadn't been touched. But the main thing is, all the paint is now sealed, so when I'm reassembling it, I shouldn't mash stuff up too badly. But I'm pretty stoked, really. It's all one colour now, and it does mean I can start reassembling the interior. And I've got to put the clevis pin back in the clutch pedal before I put the seats in, but I should be able to get seats in today. Yeah boy. Got to mention one thing, it wouldn't be a DIY paint job if I didn't stick a body part in the paint. And see just there, I was painting down the back there, down there, and my freaking elbow touched it. So it's not hugely noticeable by the time, I mean, I may put those panels back in yet, I don't know. I'm going to trim them up and see how they look, but I'm not committed to it just yet. I'm going to make up some door card panels for the rear section there at a later date to cover that mess up as well. So yeah, it's time to put this little bit of wiring harness back in. I'm going to tuck it down the inside of that panel there as well, so that should be good. Well, I've been super slack with the filming today. I've only got today left to get to where I want to be at, so I need to just freaking munch through it and not mess about with time lapse and stuff and running batteries dead and whatever. Anyway, so I've got the fuel flap and boot release cables back in, and I have done some stuff here. Oh well, we'll be able to see. Let's have a look. See, you can see there, the factory loom used to run on the outside of that void there, up and over the wheel well, and then out to the back and across to the other side. So what I've managed to do now is run the wiring loom on the inside and connect it all up and run it through and pop it out at the back of the other end there. But the cables had to still run the factory route just about, because there's not enough length to go anywhere else with it. So it's pretty limited there. So I've taped up a few, well, tied up a couple of connectors which aren't going to get used. They're all for the seatbelt mechanism. Then I've got a bunch of wiring that I've hidden up behind there, which is for the old speakers and interior light that used to be in the boot on that side. So you can just see there, we've got the wiring running through the inside and the cables running through on the outside. It's a small price to pay, really. I was hoping to try and get it cleaner than that, but hell, that'll do, huh? So just a few cable ties to tie it all up, make sure none of it all moves, because I don't want any annoying rattles